The first reading today comes from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 7, verses 1 to 8, 14 to 15, and 21 to 23. The Pharisees and some legal experts from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus. They saw some of his disciples eating food with unclean hands. They were eating without first ritually purifying their hands through washing. The Pharisees and all the Jews don't eat without first washing their hands carefully. This is a way of observing the rules handed down by the elders. Upon returning from the marketplace, they don't eat first without first immersing themselves. They observe many other rules that have been handed down, such as the washing of cups, jugs, pans, and sleeping mats. So the Pharisees and legal experts asked Jesus, "Why are your disciples not living according to the rules handed down by the elders, but instead eat food with ritually unclean hands?" He replied, "Isaiah really knew what he was talking about when he prophesied about you hypocrites. He wrote, 'This people honours me with their lips, but their hearts are far away from me. Their worship of me is empty, since they teach instructions that are human words. You ignore God's commandments while holding on to rules created by humans and handed down to you.'" Then Jesus called the crowd again and said, "Listen to me, all of you, and understand. Nothing outside of a person can enter and contaminate a person in God's sight. Rather, the words that come out of your mouth can contaminate you. It's from inside, from the human heart, that evil thoughts come. All these evil things come from the inside and contaminate a person in God's sight." Our next reading is from the epistle, James, the first of James, verses 17 to 27. "Every good gift, every perfect gift, comes from above. These gifts come down from God, the creator of the heavenly light, in whose character there is no change at all. God chose to give us birth by the true word, and here is the result. We are like the first crop from the harvest of everything God created. Know this, my dear brothers and sisters, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to grow angry. This is because an angry person doesn't produce God's righteousness. Therefore, with humility, set aside all moral filth and the growth of wickedness, and welcome the word planted deep inside you, the very word that is able to save you. You must be doers of the word, and not only hearers who mislead themselves. Those who hear but don't do the word are like those who look at their faces in the mirror. They look at themselves, walk away, and immediately forget what they were like. But there are those who study the perfect law, the law of freedom, and continue to do it. They don't listen and then forget, and they put it into practice in their lives. They will be blessed in whatever they do. If those who claim devotion to God don't control what they say, they mislead themselves. Their devotion is worthless. True devotion, the kind that is pure and faultless before God, is this: to care for orphans and widows in their difficulties and to keep the world from contaminating us. And from the Hebrew Scriptures, the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verses 8 to 13. "Listen, it's my lover. Here he comes now, leaping upon the mountains, bounding over the hills. My lover is like a gazelle or a young stag. Here he stands now, outside our wall, peering through the windows, peeking through the lattices. My lover spoke to me and said to me, 'Rise up, my dearest, my fairest, and go. Here, the winter is past, the rains have come and gone. Blossoms have appeared in the land. The season of singing has arrived, and the sound of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The green fruit is on the fig tree, and the grapevines in bloom are fragrant. Rise up, my dearest, my fairest, and go.'"
I'm excited about the next few days. I wonder if you are. What's happening very soon in the next few days? First day of spring. Spring is upon us. The wattles will start to be in flower. The rose bushes will send forth vital new growth. There'll be the promise of open buds, pungent and sweet scent, and the birds twittering and singing with extra vigour. Nature on the very edge of bursting forth in all its loveliness, lush and glorious, at the height of its reproductive and copulating cycle. Nature at its most sensual and seductive stage, enticing us with all its alluring colours and joyous songs and sounds and aromas. The new season is dawning, and I wonder what it could mean for us. Maybe new adventures, and maybe, if you're lucky, new romance, or the sparkling of one that already exists. A deeper love relationship with one you already love. This morning we heard from the Song of Solomon's. It's actually erotic love poetry. There's no other way around it. It's been reinterpreted in all sorts of ways over time, but its actual intention in the Hebrew is an erotic love story. Listen, it's my lover. He comes now leaping upon the mountains, bounding over the hills. My lover is like a gazelle or a young stag. Here he stands now, outside my wall, peering through the windows, peeking through the lattice. My lover spoke and said to me, "Rise up, my dearest, my fairest, and go. Here the winter is past, the season of singing has arrived. Rise up, my dearest, my fairest, and let us go." Beautiful words that still ring true thousands of years later. Overwhelming, quite unquenchable, intense desire. Words that might actually make you blush, especially in church. We're not used to hearing those sorts of words. It's a love poem that provocatively begins with those words of "kiss me deeply and all over, for sweet loving is better than wine." It just goes on and on. It gets better and better. If you want a good read Song of Solomon's. You know, I think we can all relate to those sorts of emotions. Some of us have actually known true romantic love. And many of us at least have known the desire for that sort of love. A state where our sense of reality is kind of skewed and where time and space seem warped, and to us it feels completely normal, but to other people they look at us as though there's something wrong. We seem to be crazy to everyone else. In our reading, the woman waits by her balcony as her Shakespearean suitor searches for her from the garden below. However, unlike Romeo and Juliet, this is not a tragic love story. This is not about love suffered, but rather love savoured. This is about a time and a place where there are no calamities or misfortunes present. Nothing but desire is described, without restriction, without prohibition, and what's more, without reference to procreation, and where the roles of men and women are irrelevant. This is a story where love is freely expressed, freely sought out, and is unrestrained. The Song of Songs, as you might well guess, is in contrast, it seems, to the rest of the Bible, where human sexuality is generally regarded as needing careful governing and control. Many Hebrew and early Christian scholars also tried to exclude the Song of Solomon's from the canon of books that we call the Bible. However, it has remained right there in the middle, and its presence, I think, is literally a godsend. It's a godsend to those of us in the church who wish to shake the church and its hang-ups about sex. As Dietrich Bonhoeffer noted, the Song of Solomon represents a reality check to all those who believe mistakenly that the restraint of passion is what it means to be Christian. That could not be further from the truth. There is no moral message to be found in this book of the Bible. There is no underlying edifying intent to its story. Additionally, there is not a different level of interpretation to be discovered, although many people have tried. The church has, until recently, tried to suffocate its meaning, imposing heavy allegorical interpretation to the Song of Solomon. The church has often said that we cannot just read it plainly. It needs to be made sense of, deciphered. However, there is no avoiding the fact you read those words, it is nothing more than a song of erotic, indulgent, passionate love poetry. It's absolutely beautiful words. So what was meant by this book? What's its purpose? Why do we have it here in the middle of our Bible? Well, firstly, it says that romantic love, as expressed between any two lovers, is to be celebrated in all its beautiful wonder. The people of the story are not historical characters. They are instead poetic types, and the poet invites us, the reader, us, the listener, to identify with them. The poet calls on us to celebrate human desire and human sexuality. The song includes passionate and intimate descriptions of sensual touch. It points to the exhilaration that can be found in breathing in exotic scents, the excitement enjoyed by the sweet sound of an intimate voice. And it contains many provocative images. Today we heard of rippling muscles like those of a mountain thoroughbred. It even goes on to speak of the amazing taste of another's body. Further, it honestly explores the deep human emotion that's to be found in romantic love. This book testifies to the power of human love as well as its pain. In chapter 8, our lover goes on to say, "Potent burns my love with the intensity of a blazing fire, unquenchable even by the ocean's depths." This is a love that is known to be able to lead to heartbreak as well as to ecstatic joy. Love encompasses all those feelings and more. Those amazing highs and experiences of incredible intensity to times of deep despair and wonder. At a wider view, the setting of this love story reminds us of another love story at the beginning of time, told with the story of Eden. A creative, life-giving love story between God and all creation. And remember the words at the end of that story of creation, and God saw it and God said it was good. In fact, it was very good. This poetry we have here in Song of Solomon's is meant to remind us that God's prophetic voice comes through many ways. Not just those who seek to overthrow and change the political world we live in, but also through those who simply seek to love our world into a new way of being. All the prophets looked forward to a peaceable kingdom that would come at the end of the age. And the Song of Songs locates that kingdom in the here and now, in our everyday lives, in the lives of those who listen and hear to those words. It allows us to enter into that incredible love of God and our love for each other. This story reminds us, this Song of Solomon's reminds us to know yourself in God, to know yourself and your inner being, to know love, to know those you would call lover, to know the intimacy of love and nurture and care, and never to be ashamed of loving another. It's core to what it means to being Christian. For surely if we cannot love ourselves and love one another, how can we ever love the world that God has placed us in. So in God, embrace the love within you. Love truly, madly, deeply, to quote someone else, and enjoy the delights of a new season that is to come, a new day. The green fruit is on the fig tree. The grapevines are soon to be in bloom and fragrant. Rise up, my dearest, my fairest, and let us go. Amen.